Hey everybody, Charles Curry here from eShopMarketer.com, and today I'm with Katee Ellis. Thanks for joining me today,
You're welcome.
Katee.
Thank you.
She owns the shop Lion and Liam Boutique, and she's doing really well, so I wanted to sit down with her and talk to her about how she's doing and get some information from her. So my first question for you, Katee, was how did you get started on Etsy?
Well, I got started on Etsy in 2013. I have always been a graphic designer since I was really young. Totally untrained, no professional experience. And I started an invitation shop just to earn some extra money. I saw that from doing birthday parties myself that you could purchase invitations online that were more creative and unique and not something you would find in the store. So I started my Etsy shop for Invite Design, which was my first experience with Etsy altogether. And I did pretty well. I mean, I started out with a few designs and then I added to it. Now that's something that's just kind of like my shop that just kind of, it's like a running engine. It just kind of earns its own money itself. But pretty much all you do with that is you just change out the text of the invitations. Now, be original with your designs and things like that, but that's my first one. And I got started with that, and then being a stay-at-home mom, I just decided that I didn't want to work anymore. I just wanted to stay home with my kids. I wanted to do something that was myself. So having that design experience, I actually got a Cricut for Christmas. And I just used that Cricut and started playing with it and started making shirts. And then I thought, hey, you know, I can make money with that.
And a Cricut, is that a silk screen or something?
No, a Cricut is actually, it's a brand. It's actually just a design cutter. Like it cuts different types of materials, like it cuts fabric, vinyl, heat transfer vinyl, all of that. So I just got started playing with that, and then I started slowly putting my stuff up on Etsy.
You started Lion and Liam in
2015.
2015. So how did you get started with that one?
With that, you know, like I said, I just started making designs that I thought were cute, that I thought that I wanted my babies to wear, that I wanted my kids to wear. And I just started having experience with Etsy before. I just started, you know, playing with it, playing with the idea of it, just decided to start a shop. I actually already had my shop established before I started making my shirts from making headbands previously, but I got pregnant, took time off, did that type of thing, and I just kind of put my shop on vacation. So I had the name in the shop established, I just hadn't started. And so I just thought, hey, you know, I already have all this here. Why don't I make some money and put my designs for my kids online and see what it happens? And then that's how everything got started.
Okay. So where do you find inspiration for your items?
Well, I find inspiration in kind of a different way. You know, a lot of people look on Pinterest and they look on what everybody else is doing, and I've really found that if you want to be on Etsy long term, if you want to survive, if you want to be different, if you want to go bigger routes, you can't do that. You have to be creative in your own light, and you have to find stuff that you would wear, that you have to think like a buyer and think, what would I wear that would show how I feel about life? Or, you know, there's different things. You can Google different keywords, you know, like Aztec. Aztec's a really popular trend. You can Google that and get inspiration just from the designs in the Aztec word. There's so many different ways and quotes and things that relate to you in life. The more relatable, the better it'll sell.
Okay. So do you ever spy on competitors at all?
I have, and I just, you know, sometimes you get copied, sometimes you find stuff that you actually have never even seen that's very similar to yours, and I would just recommend changing it. You know, if you want to stay different, you want to stay relevant, if you find something that's much similar or really similar to somebody else, change it. Just because you want to be different, you don't want to be like everybody else. So if you're going to spy on competitors, do it for that reason. Okay.
So what was it like to make your first sale? How hard was it to make your first sale on Etsy?
It actually wasn't hard at all. It was really fast. I mean, I started my business January 31st of this year, and I utilized social media a lot. So I started posting just on my personal Facebook, you know, stuff I had made for my kids. Word of mouth started to grow. I started an Instagram, which got huge as far as, you know, the response to people. So I just started, if people locally wanted to buy from me, that they purchased through Etsy at first. You know, just because I wanted to build my credibility on Etsy. So I would say, hey, you know, if you have cash, that's great, but why don't you go ahead and go on my Etsy and purchase this so you can leave me a review.
Okay. What was What was the feeling like when you made that first sale, though?
The first sale that wasn't local, it was phenomenal, just because I was like, hey, you know, somebody's responding to something I relate to, you know, and that's really what it is. It's people relating to what you like, and that's the biggest reward, is because, you know, that person randomly found your item and thought, hey, I want that for me too.
Right. So when you first set up your shop, maybe even the very first shop you ever put together,
Yes.
was it difficult to get it set up, get it established, get it started?
No, not for me, just because I had computer experience. But if it's somebody who really is not familiar with how the internet works or how things are found, I would recommend that they get some type of help, just because I know how much I have to help my friends get started. So I would recommend that they get help in some type of way, whether it's blogs, utilizing your guys' tools, something along those lines, to really know how to make your business successful. Otherwise, you'll start, you'll stop, and you'll never succeed.
Right. Okay. So how do you get your pictures taken? You have really good photos on your shop.
I started out with just searching my product image. Like, I would search the brand of my shirts I used, and I would Photoshop on the design, just so I wasn't spending money on actually making the shirt. Now, if you don't know how to do that, I would recommend purchasing a blank shirt, taking pictures of it, and just playing with a really easy like paint or something like that, and transferring it on there. Now, if you have something that can't be done that way, say jewelry, whatever your trade is, you're gonna have to first make that, and then you can find really great articles on how to take good pictures. But I just use my iPhone, to be honest with you. You can get a desk, you can do it on anything, and just have natural light come in and just get a close-up shot. People really want images to be clear and clean, so that's what I try to keep in mind. But with my particular product, people want to know how it fits. So that's one thing, is I try to use images of the actual model so people know what it'll look like on them.
Okay, yeah, that's some good points. What is your pricing strategy?
My pricing strategy is Etsy recommends that it's the raw price, which raw price is the cost of the actual item, the cost of the material, and then your time, times 3. I don't necessarily follow that rule. I try to stick within a range that I feel is affordable to people. So I start with the cost of the item, the material, my time, and then see what that cost is, and I either double it, or sometimes I triple it depending on the item, but normally I just try to double it and maybe a little more.
Okay. What's important to you in a listing description?
In a listing description, I actually try to keep it very simple, very clean, very to the point. You know, people don't want to read an article just to know what they're getting. So I try to keep it in, you know, a very simple format. This is what's included in the listing. You know, this is, you know, sometimes people use keywords in their descriptions. I particularly just say, you know, what it's made out of, what it is, and things like that, or, you know, say, and give a quick description on, you know, what your turnaround time is, or questions they might ask below, just to have something really quick so people don't have to wonder.
Okay. Do you have any secrets that you use, or tips or tricks for getting more sales?
I renew my listings quite frequently. That's one thing I do. I've noticed that the more you renew your listings on Etsy, the more views you have, which means the more sales you have. So if you notice, if anybody has used Etsy, once you sell an item, that view of that item goes up tremendously, because it's automatically renewed every time it's sold. So that's something I like to do, is I go in there and I renew my listings 2 to 3 times a day to bump up my views, which then bump up my sales.
Okay. Where do most of your sales come from?
You mean as far as like?
On Etsy, do you get a lot of sales from within Etsy traffic, Pinterest, Facebook?
The number one thing on my statistics is actual Etsy.com traffic. Underneath that would be the Etsy app. Underneath that would be Facebook and Pinterest. So,
Okay.
I mean, there's no way to track Instagram. That's just kind of something that you do for your brand to build yourself. But I would say a majority of it does come from Instagram as well.
Okay. How do you get your items to appear in the top of search results?
Well, right now, I mean, I don't really know the right way. I would recommend somebody researching that. I just particularly use keywords in my title description. And I also just try to, you know, get my stuff out there on Pinterest, on social media, so that people see it more frequently. But it's not something that I do necessarily on purpose to be on the top of search bars, if that makes sense.
Okay. But your items, I mean, what's some of the big keywords that you get ranked for?
A lot of the keywords I use, it's not like I use the actual name of my item. So if I had a baby girl bodysuit and say something that's really cute and trendy, I would actually use baby girl, comma, baby girl bodysuit, comma, trendy clothes for baby girls. Because you have to think like a buyer and what a buyer is going to search for your item under.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So like if you were going to search for a shirt for a man or, you know, a shirt for a woman, you would search shirts for women. And then if nothing you liked came up, you would search racerbacks for women or, you know, something like that, because you got to think of what the results are going to be when they search. If it's not what they're looking for, what are they going to search for next?
Right. Okay. So you ship T-shirts, you custom make
Yes.
them and stuff. How do you manage your inventory?
My inventory it could use some better management, I'm not gonna lie. But mainly what I do is I just go in and as soon as somebody orders something, I have a list of what I have in stock, but if I don't have that item in stock, I order immediately +1. So just that way, if somebody was to come in right behind that person and order the same item, I would have that item in stock.
So you keep one
+1, yes.
+1, okay.
Just because most people, when they're new and they're starting out, it's really difficult to keep inventory just because they don't know what they're selling. Now, my particular items can be made to anything, so I can keep, you know, say 5 larges, and that 5 larges can be any different design. Whereas somebody starting out, you know, say they have ceramics or whatever they're designing, they're going to have those items in stock made.
Right.
So it's a little bit different strategy there.
So when you get a new order and, you know, you get lots of orders in, how do you manage them, get them shipped out on time, get them produced?
Well, I manage my stuff as in when it comes in. So if everything for today, say, I will go in and write down and add it to the list. So I have a list of, I guess you could call it, of to-dos. That's one thing I've read that's a very successful key in business is a to-do list every day. So, which seems so simple and so elementary, but it's not. So every day I have a list of to be printed. So I have black, white, red, whatever the ink color is, I have it written down. The way my system is set up, everything I can print at one time. So everything that's due within, say, 2 days, I will print all together. Everything that is black gets printed together. Everything that's gold glitter gets printed together. So that way, once I print it, once I'm finished, all I have to do is, you know, marry the two together, and I'll say 20 orders are ready at once.
Okay. And do you have I forgot the question. It's a related question to that, but I can't remember it now. So the next question is, do you ever have any really difficult or irritated, cranky customers?
Yes, I actually, most of my customers are absolutely wonderful, thankfully. I have had people who, they message you before they purchase, and they say, you know, hey, is this going to fit me? You know, my particular item, and it needs to fit right. You send them a size chart, they say, okay, great, I'm gonna order this size. You send it to them, it doesn't fit. So I've had multiple people message me and say, unless you send me the right size, I will leave you a bad review. And to my response is, do whatever it takes to please your customer, because at the end of the day, it's $15 worth of bad review. It's not. It's $20 worth of bad review. It's $100. It's not. Because the amount of sales you receive by happy customers is so much more worth it than one person that just wants a free t-shirt.
Right. Very true. So what is the most rewarding part for you running your shop?
For me, I mean, I'm a designer, so my most rewarding part is knowing that people want to buy what I make. So that to me is the coolest part, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe somebody would want to purchase what I made in my head. So that to me is the most rewarding part, and to see people in town or people on Instagram tagging me in things and saying, hey, I love your stuff, hey, I'm a huge fan, that to me is the most rewarding part.
And what do your kids think about it?
Well, you know, my kids, my son tells me all the time, Mom, you work all the time. And normally I try not to work during the day. I work late hours at night just to be with them. But he thinks it's so cool. He was actually interviewed at a school, and it says, you know, what's your mom really good at? And he said, making shirts for people. So, you know, obviously he does kind of understand that it's a business, and I you know, get rewarded by making things for people.
And you have a lot of pictures you know, you use your kids a lot in your pictures. Do you have any concerns of privacy?
Not really, because people don't really know that they're my kids. It could be a model, it could be anybody's kids. You know, a lot of people will actually send me their pictures to use on Etsy, to use on Instagram, because a lot of people use brand reps. So brand reps are something where people will send you items for free. You take pictures on Instagram and you tag them in it. I don't have any brand reps at the moment, but that thing is a huge movement where people are more and more comfortable with their kids being models, but not in other cities. You know, it's not like how you have a modeling agency. It's something where people can connect with you and say, hey, I love her stuff. Oh, she bought it here.
Okay. What are your 3 favorite items on your shop?
My 3 favorite items would probably be, you mean like specific designs or?
Yeah, or
Probably my pillows. I really love, you know, like I have a handprint pillow where people can customize with their hand traces and things like that. That's one of my favorites. Feed Me and Tell Me I'm Pretty is probably one of my most popular and favorite items. And then just my women's racerbacks. Those are something that I just love to make.
What tips would you give to a brand new Etsy seller?
I would say be consistent. Be consistent with your items, because if you want to be successful in Etsy, you can't give up after 2 weeks. You know, if something doesn't happen after 2 weeks, you need to change what you're doing. So if your views are really low, if if stuff's just not selling, it's because either your pictures are bad, your keywords are bad, or your items just need that little extra touch. So I would just recommend, really researching, really getting it grounded, and then not giving up.
So you got to really keep trying, keep reinventing.
You have to keep trying. You have to keep reinventing. Because when I started out, I just had a picture of my daughter with her head cut off. I mean, really, that's what I started with. And, even though that image is still up there because it's so popular, I really had no idea what I was doing as far as images. And I just learned through trial and error and really researching how to get customers.
Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Well, I would just say to people, you have no idea the potential you have with Etsy, or even with any online marketing, because, being contacted by Zoobilee, being contacted by in-store retailers, those type of things came through Etsy. So it's about being different, it's about being consistent, and then, stuff will just randomly surprise you. So, don't stop.
So how did Zoobilee reach out to you? What got their attention?
I had some baseball shirts that kind of were not your typical baseball shirts. I just tried to really be different. I'm not a particular baseball fan, but I have tons of friends that are. And they asked me, hey, come up with some shirts that, are a little bit different than everybody else's. So I did, and, Zoobilee contacted me literally through a message through Etsy and said, hey, I'm a buyer for Zoobilee. I love your stuff. Would you like to sell on Zoobilee? And, of course, I was like, is this a scam? Is this spam? What is this? And, through contacting me and talking to her, it really took off. So if you stand out enough, people will notice. And, your designs, or not even designs, your product could be anything. But as long as you stand out, people will take a notice to it.
And how did your first Zoobilee event go?
It went really well. We were priced a little bit higher than most Zoobilee most Zoobilee vendors are, just because we're so small. We didn't have the means to purchase from other countries or things like that. We're in America, made in America. So it went really well. It wasn't well enough for them to run again. You have to sell at least, I think, 60% for them to run you again. But we did really well considering our price range and the products we offered. So we've continued to do events with them.
So doing events with them, what does that involve? You do them regularly?
Yeah, so they actually just reach out to you. They reached out to me. I've done 2 events so far. I have 5 coming up. They just reach out to you and say, hey, do you have some ideas for this themed event? We'd like to run you again. Do you have any new designs? What are you seeing for the next coming month? So they actually seek you out. It's not something I've ever had to badger them or question them. They seek me out and ask me, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? So they're a great company to work for.
And how has it impacted your overall shop?
It's been crazy. I went from having X amount of sales per day to more than double my original.
And that's on Etsy, your sales doubled?
Yes, on
Because
Etsy.
of Zoobilee?
Because of Zoobilee. Not every day is doubled. You know, some days are slower, but that's the day that I recommend renew your listings more times. Post more on Instagram. Post a sale. You know, I've had days where I've not made one sale, and I'm a you know, more successful business on Etsy. Those days will happen. It's just how are you going to deal with it when it does? What are you going to do to make it better? So everybody has, you know, rough days in sales. It's just the way it is. But I would just recommend, you know, with Zoobilee and things like that, it makes you more relevant. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I know you're small, do you want to do something like this? It's up to you to figure out, can I do this? Will I do this? And then keep doing it, because you'll grow more and more.
All right. Well, I think that's it, Katee. That's all the questions I have for you.
Okay.
Thanks so much for joining us. Everybody go check her shop out, Line Liam Boutique, / Etsy Line Liam Boutique. I think that works.
You can go ahead, or you can just search Line Liam, but, you know, shops containing Line Liam. And
So search Line Liam Boutique on Etsy. Go check out her shop. If you guys want to have more videos like this with tips and information, we're going to have more interviews and more helpful information on how to get yourself going on Etsy. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Check us out at eShopMarketer.com. You can go ahead and post a comment below if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to answer it. So again, I'm Charles Curry from eShopMarketer.com, and thanks so much for joining us today.